Morning peeps, good morning everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, like, share, subscribe. You know, we're only a couple of weeks away from AJ and Garcia. That is right, isn't it? Yeah, 2 weeks tomorrow. 2 weeks tomorrow until Knockout Chaos. And even if you're not a big fan of that fight, I mean, the co-main event, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. Like, the co-main event is better than the main event. Like Joseph Parker versus Zhilei Zhang. I mean, that's going to be something special. I don't know which way I'm leaning. I think I'm going Zhang, just because I think I can make an argument to say Zhang is the third best heavyweight in the world. Like Fury, Usyk, I can make an argument. I'm not saying he is, but if you were to try and have a debate with me, I'll like 1 second. What Zhang's done in the last 12 to 18 months better than any other heavyweight apart from Fury, Usyk, maybe even better than Fury, Usyk in the last 18 months, right? Those wins, and I'm going to call it a win of a Hrgovic, and then back-to-back against Joe Joyce. Solid. Not many other heavyweights. I don't think any other heavyweight in the last 3 fights have beaten guys 100% in the top 10, apart from Zhang. So yeah, that's a really good fight. But yeah, looking forward to flying out. I fly out next Sunday. Remember, the fight's on a Friday, so fly out next Sunday. And then, yeah, just loads of stuff to do in the lead up to the main event, and then showtime. Really looking forward to getting out there again. Let's talk about what I did yesterday. Yesterday was a busy day of media. Obviously, we're building up to the Josh Taylor-Jack Catterall fight, which everyone's talking about now. And I'm happy they are, because I think it's a big fight. I've said this before. And I just talked about AJ and Garcia. All the big fights seem to be going to Saudi. Obviously, a lot of the big fights are happening in America. We need big fights to happen in the UK. It's just, we need it, right? For the sport to remain, I think, second biggest sport potentially over here. I know sometimes cricket will be bigger because of certain events, the Ashes, etc. Sometimes tennis will be bigger because of Wimbledon and rugby, etc. But in terms of just a steady second all the time, where it might drop down to third and fourth, boxing's been that, but it has dropped off a little bit. And I think once we put big fights on again in the UK, it will, I think, jump to that second place, and I think it will stay there. And we've got some big fights coming up. It isn't just this one, which I'll talk about. I mean, I love Wardley Clark. I love that one. Again, big domestic dust-up. If we can get, fingers crossed, Boatsy Yard, again, it grows boxing over here. I grew up when domestic fights are what got me into the sport. I grew up, I'm a lot older than most of you guys. I grew up watching Ben Eubank, and not just that, but Eubank Watson, and then obviously Ben Collins and Eubank Collins. I grew up with all that kind of stuff. So for me, nothing ever will beat domestic dust up. Just double checking something very, very quickly. Something just popped up on my screen about what was it about? It was about Garcia and Haney potentially going to the Barclays Center and not the T-Mobile. Interesting. We'll talk about that in a bit. That is a bit of a surprise, actually. But look, I don't mind events going to the Barclays. I mean, not many events in recent years, big ones, have gone to the Barclays. I mean, Wilder used to fight at the Barclays quite a bit. He fought Luis Ortiz there. He fought, who else did he fought? Spilka, I believe he fought there. Danny Garcia, Zab Judah was at the Barclays, but most big fights go to the T-Mobile, right? Or MGM, but mainly T-Mobile. I'm guessing the Barclays is just so much cheaper to rent than the T-Mobile. That might not be the sole reason, but you want to save a few dollars, that could be a good reason to do it there. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's continue the conversation about domestic fights. So yeah, look, this is a big domestic fight. We've got a few big domestic fights this year, some smaller ones as well, which I think will capture the public imagination. Dalton Smith Zepeda, I think, is a good one. Again, I said Yard Boatsy, fingers crossed that happens. Jordan Gill versus Alpha Barrett's a good one as well. But I think this one is the best one. I really do. I'm not saying this because I am DAZN and Matchroom. I think this is the best one because there is history, there is heat. And I sat in between both guys yesterday doing the face-off, and you could feel that heat. You could feel it between the fighters. You really could. There was security, a lot of security there, kind of the same amount of security as there was for Ben Eubank, and that one got going immediately, and this one did as well. It caught fire because there is a genuine hatred, although both of them kind of, when I put it to both of them, like, do you hate each other? Both of them kind of, it's more of a genuine dislike than a hatred. Hatred is obviously a very strong word, but you could kind of feel the tension between the two. Josh Taylor's massive for a 140 guy. So I'm about to say 147, a 140 guy. Like, he's not that much shorter than me. He's not that much shorter than me, and he looks like he's already started camp. I mean, the one thing I think people critique Josh is that maybe he balloons up just a little bit in between fights. He's just not been busy, so he's going to balloon up a bit, but I think he's on it with this one, on it. And, as I was sort of doing my prep for the face-off, I looked at Josh's record. I mean, this guy, like, was fighting guys like champions, unbeaten champions, like unified guys. Like, honestly, Josh, I don't know if he gets, I think he does get the respect, but I think he should get more. Like, this guy became undisputed in, was it 17 or 18 fights? It's ridiculous when you think about it. Like, only, of recent times anyway, only Alexander Usyk has maybe done it as fast. And look, it helps winning the World Boxing Super Series, of course, but still, that's astonishing. Honestly, it's astonishing. And I do feel like the stick he gets, I don't know if it's warranted. Some might say it's not because of boxing, it's more because of how he is on social media. And he kind of spoke to me about that, and we kind of opened up about it a bit. Because although I did the face-off, I did separate interviews as well. And he's like, look, you know what? I don't mind sort of getting stick in boxing, right? We all get sticky. He's kind of said he's thick-skinned. But he spoke about the abuse that his family were getting, and the fact that he was getting threats to his house, and police had to stay at his house. It was crazy. Police had to stay outside his house. Like, his family were getting threatened. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because of a boxing decision? Honestly, crazy. So he said that's when he started to clap back and open his mouth, and obviously he's now become the villain. But look, it's going to be a great matchup. Jack Catterall, very confident. Like, very confident. Almost alluded to the fact that Josh is washed. That was his kind of thinking. Like, he's going to prepare for the best Josh, but he thinks Josh is no longer. He spoke about the fact that Josh's legs have gone. He kept on talking about Josh's eyes being a bit glazed over. I don't know if he was referring to the fact that Josh drinks, or the fact that maybe Josh has got a bit of an eye problem that no one really talks about. His age, the way he lost against Teofimo Lopez. So Jack's very confident. Jack's obviously been the busier of the two, not by much, but Jack's had 2 fights and won them. Josh has had a fight and lost, although the person Josh lost against is Teofimo Lopez. Like, I think Josh would beat Jorge Linares, and I think Josh would beat, was it Dara Foley? I think Josh would beat both of those guys convincingly. So it's hard to judge where either are. It really is. But what we do have is a sensational fight. It really is. I asked Sam Jones about why it is at the First Direct Arena and not a bigger arena, because it could have easily, I think we're seeing it now with the ticket sales, it could have easily have done the AO Arena or the O2 Arena, which are both, 20,000 plus. And he basically just said they almost needed a neutral venue. Josh didn't want to come too far down south, which ruled out the O2 Arena. If it was in Manchester, it would have been basically on Jack Catterall's backyard, so he didn't want to do that one. And then there aren't that many big arenas. Like, this is the problem, I think, with the UK. This isn't like America. We don't have big arenas like that. So the next biggest is the First Direct, which is 13,500. How big's Sheffield's Utilita Arena? I don't think that's that big. I think it's about 10. Let's have a look. Capacity 12.5. So they've gone for as big as they could go. And what's the Echo Arena capacity, or now it's called the M&S Bank Arena? 11. So they've gone to the First Direct, which is, I think I said last time, 13,781. That will be 13,781. That they will fill that arena completely. So yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, I can't give too much away as to how the face-off went, but it was a good one. Both guys sort of verbals at each other. I will say this, no tables were flipped, no glasses were thrown. We did make a decision not to have glasses. After what happened with Dillian White, Derek Chisora, those days of glasses are gone. But look, it's always good to be asked to do these things. I'm not trying to be Johnny Nelson or Max Kellerman. Those two guys are their own two, and those two are the GOATs at this, but we are trying to just have fun with it. Stir the pot a little bit, but respect the fighters as well. All right. I don't know when that's coming out, by the way. I'm guessing it's going to be ages. I don't know if they're going to release little clips, but probably not going to get it until, the fight's not until the 27th of April, so we've got ages to wait. Absolutely ages. All right. What else we got? Andre Ward, sees egos in boxing stopping UFC model from being adopted. It's just difficult. It's easy with the UFC. It's not even egos. It's just easy because it's one sanctioning body. It's one broadcaster, one president. It's just so easy. Boxing's got, I don't want to think of how many broadcasters. So it's almost like comparing boxing to UFC doesn't make sense because UFC is a promoter. That it's Matchroom. Do you know what I mean? That's the comparison. PBC to UFC. Boxing, you need to make the comparison between boxing and MMA. I think too many people make that mistake. Boxing, UFC. UFC isn't the sport, the art. It's the organization. So yeah, it's a strange comparison. Edgar Berlanga, McCrory isn't dangerous. I'm not going out for this one. I thought I was. Obviously, I'm not because today's Thursday. The fight's on the weekend. Yeah, I do think. I almost feel like I've watched Berlanga's most recent fights back, and because he now knows that he's stepping up and he can't blow everyone away, he's actually improving a little bit. Whereas before, and I get it, you go in there, you land, someone falls over, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, this is easy. You go in there, you land, you do it again and again and again. Remember, he did it 16, 17 times in a row. The one when the guy does push you beyond round 3 or 4, you're going to be unstuck a little bit. Now I think he knows that it's just a case of, okay, let's just slowly but surely go through the rounds. Let's have a look. Let's build things up. And he's getting better. He's still, I think, a bit away from where people think he is, but he's getting better. All right, very quickly. This Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia fight, I've seen it here in front of me now. It will be at the Barclays Center in New York, April 20th. Does that take away a little shine from it? There is nothing better than a big Vegas fight. I'll tell you that now. Nothing better. How much does the Barclays hold? I'm obviously become obsessed with attendance figures right now. The Barclays is a fantastic arena. Don't worry, 19,000. So it's a big arena. There is just something very special about the T-Mobile Vegas, like a Vegas fight week. Nothing beats it. I've done fight weeks all over the place. I've done New York. Obviously, I was lucky enough to do Katie Taylor Serrano, MSG. Big, don't get me wrong, big. But a big Vegas fight? And I wasn't lucky enough to have started my boxing journey. So I missed all the Floyd ones. You know what I mean? I missed all the Pacquiao ones. Didn't do those. But the ones I have been to, the Crawford Spence, all the Canelo recent fights, Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis, they're enormous. They're enormous. Vegas is buzzing. It's just, you can't beat it. This doesn't obviously have that. Don't get me wrong, still enormous. It's a big fight, but I think it lacks a little stardust when it's not at the T-Mobile. But boxing in America needs to be spread out a little bit. And both of these guys, Ryan and Devin, have had fights away from Vegas. I've done a couple of Ryan's fights that have not been in Vegas. I've done Oscar Duarte, which wasn't in Vegas. My memory is really flat now. I can't remember where it was. And I did one at it's called the Crypto.com arena, but where the Lakers play. Again, not in Vegas. So, they're doing it. And Devin Haney's last fight against Regis was in San Francisco. So, and by the way, all of these were sellouts. So you don't necessarily need to go to Vegas, but I thought this one might do that. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one that it's not going there. I read somewhere about Canelo, and this Canelo issue isn't going away. So what I read, and you guys would have probably read it as well, I don't know if this is true or not, you can fill in the blanks here, that PBC are able to put Canelo's 35 million in escrow, so he's guaranteed for the fight regardless of how this fight plays out, but are only willing to do it if he fights Jaime Munguia. Look, Benavidez is off the table. It isn't happening. So only willing to do it if he fights Jaime Munguia. Not willing to guarantee him that money if he fights Jamal Charlo. I said this the other day. Jamal Charlo won't do the numbers. I said it, right? I did. I said, his last fight against Jamel did around 600,000 pay-per-view buys. If Jamel put up a good fight, fair, they then might think, okay, the bigger twin might do better. Okay, this could do well. Jamel ran, didn't do anything. They're not thinking Jamal's going to do anything. So as much as Canelo is, Mr. Star Power when it comes to pay-per-views, he needs a dance partner. And Jamal isn't that dance partner. They're thinking Munguia will do big numbers. Bear in mind, Munguia has never been on pay-per-view before, but he's unbeaten, he's active, and obviously he most recently destroyed John Ryder, Mexican thing. If it is Munguia, then I don't know Canelo's contract situation with PBC. That's a DAZN fight then. I mean, Munguia is a DAZN fighter, golden boy. And we know Canelo has a working relationship with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, why have it on PBC then? I'm not sure. I'm guessing he's locked into something with PBC. Didn't he say he had a 2 or 3 fight contract with them when he announced the Jamel Charlo fight? So maybe he's locked in. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens here. Maybe he doesn't take the 35 million. Maybe he goes a bit lower just to get what he wants. So, yeah, we'll see. Eddie Hearn would love to sign Jaron Ennis. Yeah, I bet he would. The future of 147, maybe even potentially the future at 154 pounds. It's one thing signing these guys. It's another thing signing them with an outlook as to who they're going to fight. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like when Eddie had Demetrius Andrade. Like, at the time, good signing, right? I mean, Eddie came into America, it was a good signing. Couldn't get him a fight. So he was there and it was a big name to have. I say big name, you guys know what I mean. Big name, not in terms of bums and seats and pay-per-view sales, but big name, Demetrius Andrade. At the time, 2-weight world champion. But he couldn't get him fights. So Eddie would have to look at that 147 roster. Was he going to put him in with Conor Benn straight away? So, yeah. I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens with him. What else have we got? Canelo doesn't run away from any fighter. Benavidez will be difficult for Alvarez, says Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. Yeah, I'm not having a Canelo running, but it's kind of difficult to say. It's not running, is it? Because, you only have to look at Canelo's CV and there's not, there's no duck in there. But it's hard to say it isn't a duck with Benavidez, I don't, who am I to say Canelo is ducking? But I don't know, man. I don't know. If you're Benavidez right now, one thing you can't do is sit on the sidelines here. There are other 168 guys, really good 168 fights out there for him as well. But yeah, it's a strange one with Canelo and Benavidez. I don't know, very strange. As it is a strange one with Canelo and Crawford. And again, just like what I said about Benavidez, Crawford can't just sit on the fence. Sit on the sidelines. What's Terence Crawford doing? He's coming off the biggest fight of the year, biggest win of his career, a fight that made people start really, really thinking, could he have beaten Floyd? Honestly, it was that good, and you're following it up doing what? Nothing. Strange, man. These fighters, I don't know. Okay, this is interesting, and I spoke to Tony about this. We'll end on this. Tony Bellew saying he wants to come out of retirement, and there have been talks for him to fight Rosansky. Rosansky is the WBC Bridgerweight champion. Me and Tony spoke about this about 8-9 months ago, I think after Rosansky beat Babic, and Tony was like, I can beat him. Tony is 41 now, so he's getting on a bit. But I asked him yesterday, we did a little shoot yesterday, and I was saying, look, is there anything in this again? Because this has come from nowhere again. Where's this talk coming from? And he's like, yep, there have been discussions, I think, with Eddie, with maybe with DAZN as well. They're trying to gauge the interest in it. I think there's a lot of interest in this. I think that if Tony Bellew were to announce he's coming out of retirement, I think people would lap it up for just this one fight. I think people like that kind of almost a Rocky story. It's quite a coincidence that he was actually in the Creed movies, but I think there's something in it. And we're not talking about a killer here. Don't get me wrong. Rosansky is tough, but he's 38. 38. Obviously, Tony will do a camp. We'll try and see if he can do a bit of sparring just to see where he is. Do a weight cut. Get Dave Coldwell back in. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to see him fight again. Obviously, the last time we saw him fight was against Alexander Usyk. Rosansky's no Usyk. But the fact is, Rosansky's fighting. You know what I mean? He's fighting. And I don't know, has Tony got a bit soft in his old age? I don't know. Can the bomber come back out? Not sure. But I do think it'll do big numbers. I think, especially now that he's even got this I'm a celebrity kind of fame with him now as well. So Tony Bellew was already a big name. Now I think he's a bit more known to the wider public. Yeah, not sure. All right, guys, girls, peace and love.